game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
He don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them though.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
So Jim Jones decided to stir the pot, big time. He walked into Shannon Sharpe's podcast, opened his mouth, and dropped a bomb that made the whole hip-hop community do a double take. According to Jim, he's not just relevant, he's more influential than NAS. Yes, that Nas, Illmatic Nas, King's Disease Nas. The moment those words left Jim's mouth, you could feel the shift in the air. 50 Cent didn't respond with a diss track. He didn't even mention Jim by name. Nope. He did something colder. He just casually uploaded an old federal transcript to Instagram and sat back while the internet exploded. Fans instantly turned into investigators. Wiretap receipts started circulating. People were reposting old clips, digging into history. And Jim? He was in the gym throwing shade, making noise, and acting like he was ready to walk into Rikers with a mixtape and a mission. But here's the real tea. It was never just about Nas. This wasn't just rap beef. It wasn't even just about ego. This was 50 Cent sending a not-so-subtle reminder to everyone in the industry. I'm still the one who pulls strings from the shadows, and some of y'all got lucky, you didn't end up in handcuffs. Jim might have thought this was a flex, but he accidentally walked into a storm that goes way deeper than music. See, Jim Jones bringing up Nas always hits different because their drama didn't start yesterday. It's not some trendy generational clash. Their tension is seasoned. We're talking back to 2002 when Nas popped off on Hot 97 and randomly fired shots at Cameron saying his album was garbage for no reason. That was all Dipset needed to declare war. And Jim, he jumped headfirst into it. From that point, the subliminals flew like bullets. Mixtapes turned into battlegrounds. Jim wasn't playing games, he wanted Nas smacked. That energy bled into songs like We Fly High and It's More Than Music. It got personal. What makes it messier is that not too long ago, Jim was all praise for Nas. Just a year back, he wasn't saying anything negative.
I never got to did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that. Like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody else.
But then something switched. That admiration turned to shade fast. And you can blame Fat Joe for that shift.
I recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy
big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying, Nas is like a god.
In my era.
It started when Jim appeared on Fat Joe and Jadakiss's podcast. Fat Joe couldn't resist poking the bear. And instead of brushing it off, Jim ran with it.
Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan. Period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Then, out of nowhere, he dropped one of the most reckless takes in recent hip-hop memory.
I came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them though.
You know what I mean?
A lot of them though.
Jim didn't just say he was relevant. He doubled down and claimed to be more influential than Nas, the man who built Queensbridge into a lyrical monument, a living legend who can still sell out Madison Square Garden in his 50S. Jim made it crystal clear he meant what he said and he stood on it.
You know, me, Jim Jones, no diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones, check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody, but I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this shit about the industry. I've been putting on.
The podcast wasn't just controversial. It was like throwing gasoline on dry leaves. And right when fans were still catching their breath from that chaos, Jim popped up again. This time, it was Shannon Sharpe's nightcap. And baby, if you thought he was gonna walk it back, think again. Jim slid in with Shannon and Chad Okocinco Johnson, ready to make his case. Shannon, though, he wasn't about to let Jim run wild without being checked.
Let me ask you a question, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little bit.
But what he said next made fans actually pause the episode.
I'm way more influential than Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when we talk about the sales and all this type of shit. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that
but
bullshit.
Listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit of run.
And just when you think Jim might switch lanes, he doubles down again. This man dragged out ancient beef like it was 2005. He brought up Dipset vs. Nas drama, trying to position himself not just as a Nas fan, but someone who surpassed him in cultural impact. He did this dance, praising Nas' fashion sense, calling him one of the flyest, but then spun it into another hot take. Nas doesn't influence the streets like I do.
But Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like,
Ain't no shame in that. There a lot of mofos came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear, and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
Shannon wasn't having it.
Bro, you been at this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look
ain't
how you
effing with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. And the
But
things
I-
that we, listen to
I can
me,
be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
The tension got so weird, Jim started taking digs at Shannon's outfits. Petty, yes. Entertaining, absolutely.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than
It don't
Nas.
matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Nobody,
Ain't all in your,
ain't
all
nobody
in
from
your
Dipset gonna take
Shannon,
you
that
over
shirt-
Nas.
that
Nobody
shirt
from the
too-
Diplomats
that
but
shirt-
you.
That shirt
I
too
got
tight.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah,
Hold
with
on.
Nas.
That shirt too
Hold on,
tight.
Hold on.
That
Jimmy,
shirt
Jimmy,
too
Jimmy.
tight. You want to go back
hold
to
on.
I really mean it? I really mean it started. We could go back to
but I
the
just
history,
said,
bro.
for you to
Don't
even
do
say that.
bro.
At this point, even Ocho Cinco looked like he didn't sign up for this circus.
I'm still playing at a high level.
Hey,
You better check my record,
you
heard?
jumping up and
I'm
down.
still playing
You
at
need
a
to
high
go back
level.
and get Jada. Jada
I'm
been
rapping
put down.
I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will
we
run
not
circles
denying
around
that.
Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now.
Right
Right now, I will run.
Put his
I will
microphone
run.
up. Let me take my mic
Saturn. I will
Give me a
run
mic.
Saturn around Nas right now rapping.
Then Jim accused Shannon of only bringing him on for views, which made Unc explode.
This the biggest podcast you ever been on.
on.
You know
Hey,
the
yo,
podcast
you know
you been
Nas-
on better than this one.
Hold on. We off topic.
I'm not a
Hold on.
podcaster.
No,
Jimmy,
no,
hold on, hold on.
This what I do. You see
Name
you
a
in your
podcast you've been on
feelings? You
bigger
see in
than
your
this
feelings?
one. When you get big, you get invited to Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
And then it happened. Shannon flipped the script. He went from podcast host to full-on challenger. When Jim pushed the Nas comparison again, Shannon didn't just counter with lyrics. He went physical, challenged the man's whole body.
You gotta start buying baggy your clothes, big fella.
Nah,
You
hey.
too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do
Since
that.
you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about
Come
working
see
out.
me in the
What
gym.
we talking about? Working out or strength?
Whoa.
Working
What we
out.
talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
Since you got money,
If we talking about
put your
working out,
money
I
where your
burn
mouth is.
So you talking about working
Run
out, I
them
burn
stacks.
you. You talking about working out, I burn you. You talking about working out or strength? Because you probably can lift a lot
Whatever.
more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me.
Whatever.
But if you talk about working out, I burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You
Hold
are
on,
doing
hold on.
good when
You
you talk
better
about
go-
Nas
you
and
better go to my
Jada.
IG.
You don't want to see
better
this.
check this.
Jim tried to deflect into fitness. Like that's going to settle the Nas debate. He turned the convo into a who's got more abs showdown instead of actually defending his bars. But while Jim's on IG doing push-ups and talking protein shakes, 50 Cent? He was already 10 steps ahead, quiet, calculate, watching everything and waiting for his moment. And 50's silence? Oh, that's never good. That's when he starts loading receipts. Fans were loving Shannon's defense of Nas. One said, Shannon did what Fat Joe and Jadakiss should have done. Thank you for keeping it real. Because why were they so quiet when Jim was talking wild the first time? Meanwhile, 50 Cent's lurking, and everyone knows when he lurks, he strikes. And then it turned petty, deliciously petty.
When it got, honestly, I can't, like, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. He was so nice. He was so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm like, yo. The used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pop. Right. Even Cannabis, like Eminem, used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, like, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
People started bringing up the clip where Jim got clowned by Nas on stage, pure humiliation. And in 2025, that moment got recycled with fresh energy. Jim got ignored back then, and now history's repeating. Then came the final slap, 50 Cent's legendary level of petty. He reposted the most loaded caption of the year, no names, just one term, individual one. Now, if you know, you know. That's not a nickname. That's a federal alias ripped from a Tekashi 6ix9ine in a wiretap. Back in 2018, during Tekashi's trial, prosecutors played a recording where a voice, allegedly Jim's, was instructing gang members to violate Tekashi. Jim was never officially charged, but on court records, he was known as Individual 1. And 50? He didn't forget. He dusted off that moment like a trophy and reposted in old memes. So that's why they ain't pull him in. Say it ain't so, Jimmy, y'all. The internet lost it. And just to remind you, this wasn't some new beef. 50 and Jim have had static for years. It all started back in 2007 when 50 brought out Jim and Joel Santana on stage during a G-Unit show while Dipset was falling apart behind the scenes. Cameron took it as a slap in the face. And from there, it was on sight. Then Tekashi's case in 2019 reopened wounds. Jim's name got dragged right back into the mess as Individual 1. And while Jim tried to downplay it, the streets never stopped whispering. Jim saw the posts. He saw all of them. His first move? Post a throwback Bird Gang pic with a cryptic caption, "Why you keep lying, Lowell? I'm going back to sleep, free male matrix." That line wasn't random. Free male matrix is a nod to his longtime friend doing over 11 years for racketeering. It was a shot at 50, calling him fake and accusing him of pushing false narratives. But Jim wasn't done. He flexed harder. Jim selfies, cryptic captions. This one? Somebody tell Shannon Sharpe, don't duck this challenge now. My sneakers tied, run it. Jim was in battle mode, not in the booth, but in the gym. Wild. And then he really let loose. One more post, loud and clear. If you 40 and up arguing with me about Nas, you already lost. Y'all fell for the bait. My streams go up every time. I'm teaching y'all old hoods about marketing. You stuck in the past. I'm running today. Then he capped it with, I said what I said. P.S. I will wrap circles around any artist from my era. Whoever dares step in the booth, bring money. This ain't free, we outside. The craziest part in all of this? Nas didn't say a single word. Jim was ranting. Shannon was flexing, 50 was scheming, and Nas, silent, not even a bar. But fans weren't silent. They were dragging Jim online.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart. And Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.
And that's where we pause. Right now, Jim's out here still poking the bear, still dropping quotes, still running his mouth about being more influential than Nas. But Nas, man's giving silence the kind of weight it rarely has in hip-hop. It's like he's above the noise. Or he's just waiting for the perfect moment to deliver a kill shot. Either way, the quiet is louder than any diss. And while Jim's still shouting into the void, 50 Cent is lurking in the background like the puppet master he is. Cool, calculated, and grinning behind the scenes. Because let's not kid ourselves, this isn't about lyrical supremacy anymore. This is about reputation, about exposure, about who controls the narrative. And the scariest part, there might still be a wiretap that hasn't been aired. One that could flip everything on its head. One leak, one upload, and Jim's entire flex game could collapse overnight. Because 50's not the type to just bark when he's quiet. That's when it gets dangerous. Jim thinks this is about outstreaming a legend or about gym challenges with retired NFL stars. But what he doesn't see is that he walked himself right into a trap. And 50, he's just watching it all unfold like it's pay-per-view. See, Jim tried to market his way through a storm. Thought he could turn trolling into traffic. And maybe he did, short term. But long term, he might have poked someone who never forgets and never forgives. 50's known for never letting things slide. He has the receipts, the shade, and the patience. He waits, and then he drops bombs. If Nas ever decides to respond, and that's a big if, this won't just be a diss track, it'll be a lyrical burial. Because when Nas goes to war, he doesn't play around, he doesn't troll, he delivers facts in poetry. He ends careers with 3 verses and a hook. But maybe Nas won't even need to respond. Maybe 50 will do the heavy lifting for him. Because if that unreleased wiretap drops, if Individual 1 gets officially named, or worse, if another name pops up alongside it, Jim might find himself fighting more than just means in interviews. He could be dealing with the real consequences of playing too cute with the truth. And that's what fans are whispering. Everyone's seen this movie before. The louder Jim gets, the quieter the danger becomes. He thinks he's winning the game, but he doesn't realize 50's already 10 moves ahead, reading from the end of the script while Jim's still improvising the first act. So now the question is simple. Will Nas finally respond and shut this down with 1 track? Or will 50 Cent keep fanning the flames until Jim's entire rep goes up in smoke? Either way, this ain't over. Not by a long shot. Because in the world of hip-hop, there are battles you rap through, and then there are wars you don't even realize you're losing until it's too late. And Jim, he might have just entered the latter.